รงนี้จัดแสดงเพื่อให้เห็นว่าตัวนักโทษที่ถูกแขวนคอแล้วก็ตัดหัวออกมาเนี่ยเขาจะมาดูว่าแต่ละคนเนี่ยทำไมถึงก่ออาชญากรรมได้นะแต่ละคนมีชื่อหมดเลยแล้วก็เอามาวิเคราะห์The science of phrenology developed in the late 18th century in an attempt to determine personality types, intellect, and human behavior by examining the shape of the skull. It was often used to predict criminal behavior. The Austrian psychologist Franz Joseph Gall and his colleague Johann Caspar Spurzheim invented the theory of phrenology. They mapped out the skull into 35 sections and linked each one with specific physical, mental, and moral faculties. For example, they labeled the area above the ears destructiveness. In their investigations, they noted that this area of the skull was prominent in several violent men. Phrenologists were trained to read heads by gently feeling the contours of the skull. They became very popular in the late 19th century and were consulted like palm readers and astrologers. The application of phrenology in determining criminal behavior also gained wide acceptance in the late 19th century. The making of death masks became standard practice, and phrenologists sometimes attended executions. After Ned Kelly was hanged, the phrenologists examined his shaven head and proclaimed that it indicated Kelly was a man clearly destined to a life of crime. Alright, this is going to be too deep if I read them all, but you may understand how they think about the criminal in the 18th and 19th century.นักโทษที่ถูกแขวนคอคนแรกเกิดขึ้นในวันที่ 20 มกราคม ปี 2000 ประมาณ 2,385 เป็นชาวออริจิน2 คนซึ่งถูกกล่าวหาว่าฆ่าผู้ล่าประวานคนหนึ่งชื่อแจ็คอีกคนหนึ่งชื่อบ๊อบนะฮะแล้วก็เข้ามาจากทัสมาเนียแล้วเขาฆ่านักล่าประวานก็เลยถูกแขวนคอที่นี่ครับ Oh no Death Mask of George Melville. George Melville, Stand and Deliver. A crime greatly increased in Victoria after gold was discovered. Bush rangers like George Melville prey on travelers and isolated communities, but because of their daring were regarded by some as folk heroes. Melville's undoing was the MacIver gold escort robbery. He escaped from the scene of the crime but was captured aboard the bark Colony. He was attempting to flee Victoria with his wife. One of the other members of the gang, George Wilson and William Atkins, were also caught. All three were found guilty of robbery with intent to murder and were hanged on the morning of 3rd October 1853. After the execution, Melville's body was released to his widow. She decorated it with flowers and put it on public display in her oyster shop in Melbourne. Newspaper reported a brisk trade with Mrs. Melville entertaining customers with a torrent of abuse against an conniving police force. There was a huge public outrage over this incident, and it contributed to a change in law that had the bodies of all those executed in the Melbourne jail buried within the walls of the prison. MacIver gold escort robbery mentioned in dispatches. A private escort composed of 6 men conveying 2,323 ounces of gold and 200 pounds in cash towards Melbourne. The attacking party consisting, it is believed, of 11 men lay in ambush and evidently attempted by a general discharge of firearms to kill or disable the whole guard. This is the arrival of the first gold escort, William Street, Melbourne, June 1852, by an eyewitness, William Austin, State Library of Victoria. This is the head of George Melville, executed at the Melbourne jail 3rd October 1853 at age 31 years. John V. Church, a dangerous and difficult man. John V. Church had a long history of convictions when he was found guilty of murder in Melbourne in November 1875. Many saw him as a victim of the penal system. V. Church, a shoemaker by trade, was convicted of theft in England and transported to Tasmania for 7 years. After serving his sentence, he made his way to Victoria and spent most of the rest of his life in prison. In 1862, V. Church was arrested for robbery and sent to Pentridge for 3 years. He was a dangerous and difficult prisoner, and his sentence was extended because of his violence, bad behavior, and self-mutilation. He was deprived of writing materials and confined to a cage for the safety of other prisoners. In 1872, Will Church was sentenced to death for wounding Mr. G. Duncan, Inspector General of Penal Establishments. This sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. The first 3 years to be served in irons. On 7th October 1875, V. Church stabbed Matrick Moran, a warder, with the sharpened end of his cell wash basin handle. He conducted his own defense and called the well-known bushranger, Captain Moonlight, to testify to the appalling conditions at Pentridge. V. Church, aged 46, was hanged on 6 December 1875. Despite appeals for clemency, a gathering of 2,000 people in Royal Park protested against his execution. The will of Pentridge imprisoned by John Baptist Charrier, 1861. Oh, this is a very dangerous guy. This is a photograph of letter John V. Church wrote to his parents while imprisoned at the Melbourne jail in December 1874. Letters for prisoners were controlled by jail authorities. Letters were written under the following conditions. Number one, prisoners may write a letter on arrival to their friends and on the other every 3 months. Two, they must confine themselves strictly to their own domestic or private matters and are not permitted to comment on the discipline or arrangements of the establishment or on public or political affairs. Number three, they are not to write close than the rule lies nor across. Number four, any matter which may appear objectionable will be expunged or the letter may be withheld as provided by the regulations John V. Church Capital Case File VPRS 264 PO Unit 8 74/7083 Public Records of Office of Victoria. His handwriting is nice. Melbourne Jail, 18 December 1874. Dear Father and Mother, I now embrace the first opportunity of writing to you to inform you of what had occurred and the happy results of what is likely to result very soon. I received your last letter with £10, making in all £35 that you have sent me. After receiving the very unfavorable answer that I did receive to your petition, I have been very much grieved and cut up on your account, fearing that I might never have an opportunity of seeing you again, and therefore I set myself to work seeking some means of claiming my liberty by points of law that I know of with respect to my own case. And as I could not attain that object by fair and reasonable means, I once more stake my life against any liberty by resorting to violence to attain that end, which I am happy to say has all but made me a free man. You will remember when I assaulted the Inspector General, for which I was merely being hanged, that I did so because I was not in legal custody at the time and could not seek legal regards by any other means. I think that's enough. If I read all this, that would be disaster. He signed here. Alright, for some example, he's a dangerous and difficult man, I believe now.